Welcome back. Okay, we had just finished doing rotoscope-one, and now we're going to do rotoscope-two. More or less the same idea as using still images, except it's going to include the process of incorporating video. Okay, so I have an MOV file, and on a Mac, that's a movie file, but an MPEG file or any other video file should work, whether you're on Mac or PC. But anyway, let's just record something. Okay, or let's import something. Sorry. So new file, Control N on your keyboard, Command N on a Mac. Full HD, 1920, 24 frames per second. Create. Okay. Again, it's just zooming out just a tiny little bit. File, import, import video this time. Okay. All right. This is pretty simple. It looks a little confusing. Load external video, no. Embed FLV, no. Embed H.264. If you know anything about video production, an H.264 is a codec, a compression decompression algorithm for video files. The video cannot be exported. Well, that's not what we need it for. We needed to just trace out some motion. So this is the one we want. Browse to your file path, and in this case, desktop. In that folder called roto, horse roto.mov, and I've supplied this file for you up on Canvas. And it's just a screen grab. I just did a screen recording off of YouTube. Okay, next. Okay, embedded video, place instance on stage, expand the timeline if needed. Yes, yes. Include audio. No, I don't need audio. In some instances, you might need it, like if you're going to be doing some animation to live action. So, for instance, if you're going to be doing a commercial where you're going to be animating a cartoon character to interact with a human being or a live action character, you might want the audio for reference purposes. Next. Okay, the video will be placed on the stage, the timeline will be expanded, import. After importing video, view video topics and animate help. No. Finish. Okay, it's going to take a minute because it's a 6 megabyte file, I think. And video can be huge, so be careful. Okay, give me a second, It's still thinking about it. There it is, okay? And if you press enter on the keyboard, you'll see that there is the horse running. Okay, and basically that's what I want. I want a horse that I can do something with, okay? So what I'll do is I just pick a spot where I want to start from. And you'll notice that when I scroll along the timeline, not every frame is a different keyframe, okay? Because this is old-timey video, so we're just kind of doing our best here. So what I would do is I would just pick kind of like a starting point. And if we zoom in a little bit on this, you'll also notice in the corner, you'll see frame numbers in there. You could use those if you wanted to organize your file and find a starting place you want to work from. So there's 16 and there's 2. So let's start at 2. Let's start right here. Okay, so lock the layer, add a layer, and I would put a blank keyframe right here, F7. And that's kind of where I would start my tracing from. And it literally is just like we did with me. You would just sit and trace out what you wanted. And rotoscoping is very time consuming. And I'm just doing this very rough because you get the idea. And you can do this as detailed as you want to. But for our purposes, we don't really need that. We're just going to rotoscope it fairly roughly so that you guys can see what's going on. And this is pretty straightforward. Okay, just like we did with the still images, it's the same concept. The only difference is I had to go through the process of getting the video and importing it separately. So once I've got my first bit roto traced out, Looks good. And I don't need the rider at this point. I just want the horse. So I scroll down, 1, and I'm using the greater than, less than keys on the keyboard to move frame by frame. Frame. As you can see, the next frame, it doesn't change, so I don't need a keyframe. Next frame, it doesn't change, so I don't need a keyframe. There we go. It actually is not changing very much. Interesting. All right, so next one, and then I'll put in an F7. Okay, and then I'll retrace. And like I said, this is something that you'd want to spend a little bit of time planning. And I am not putting a great deal of time into choosing what I want to, the style at which I want to trace. I'm just kind of making it very quick so we can kind of figure it out here. Okay. And what I want you to do is I want you to do a whole cycle for this horse. Okay? Choose where you want to start and what do you want to end so you could create a cycle of animation. Okay? There's the second one. Okay, there's the next one. Another blank keyframe, F7. Okay, and trace it again. Very time-consuming process, especially if you want to like get all those details of the horse. In this case, I'm just doing the outline because I want it to be a little bit more abstract. I don't necessarily want a photorealistic horse. And be careful with rotoscoping. Don't necessarily try to pass this off as your work that you did. People will know, or at least animators will know what you did, because everybody's seen these motion studies done by Edward Muybridge. I think I shared it in class more than once. And so he was famous for doing these photographic motion studies of animals and peoples doing all kind of motion. And it's great for learning, and it's great for studying. But don't try to pass it off as something that you animated from scratch. Okay, we've all seen it before. So, okay. And I'll do one more, but I won't necessarily go through the whole thing. As you can see, I'm only on frame number 5, and I think it had 16 images in the sequence. So as you can see, it's very time consuming. So what I want you to do is I want you to go through all 16 images to trace out one full cycle of the horse running. And you'll be able to tell what that is. You just kind of have to go through it slowly. Take your time. It's actually a fairly relaxing thing to do. So if you just take your time, put on some good music, hang out, and just kind of enjoy tracing, thinking about what you're doing, why you're doing, what you're going to do with this when you get it finished. It's super cool when it's done. Okay, almost done with this one here. And as you can see, I'm being very, ooh, that one's bad. As you can see, I'm being very easygoing about this. All right, and one last leg. And like I said, I'm not going to do the whole thing, so you just don't have the time for that. Okay, so now that let's just say I've done all 16 of those, I can turn off that layer. And as you can see, if I scrub, it's really interesting. Now, because I traced it so badly, you can see gaps and everything. But I mean, you get the general idea. It works the same way. And then you could take this sequence of images, embed them in a symbol, and then you could make your horse run across the stage. Just imagine, like our walk cycle, you just take all these keyframes, copy and paste them into a symbol called running horse, and then take that symbol and tween it across the stage. And so you have a horse running in place that you can make move across the stage. Okay. You can do this with anything, just about. Get creative. You can do it with people, animals. It takes a little bit of work to figure out how you're going to set it all up. And one of the important things is contrast, making sure that you're taking your video against a background where you can actually see the difference between the background. It's not too confusing. Makes it a lot easier to trace. All right, that's all I have for today. When you're finished with this, delete the video layer and save as roto2 yourname.fla and upload it to Canvas. Thanks everybody, and see you in the next video.